we're going to look at. This is going to be XSET versus Parabellum, and I tweeted a little bit earlier, this is my hype match of the day. I'm going to try to pick one each day that I'm particularly excited about, and this one, the reason is because XSET has always been one of my favorite teams to watch since their new roster formed, before Stage 1. Ton of fun to watch, and this new Parabellum roster is so good, right? They took an okay performance in Stage 1. It wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible either. And they added on these two new gunners, right? One of them literally called Gunner, the other one called Blaz. These guys can hit the shots. We'll talk about that in a moment. For now, though, let's talk about XSET.
I mean, XSET are a very formidable team. We saw them at the Major just a few weeks ago in Charlotte. They did pretty well, made it all the way to top 8, and I think that they were happy with that, especially for such a young, new squad. This team put together just at the beginning of the year, and they had a very, very successful first couple of Playdays in this stage as well. We saw a lot of good games coming against Mirage in Playday 2, and then of course SSG, the big upset that they got in that first Playday as well. I think they're looking very good this stage.
I mean, they're looking good on paper, but let's face it, that game against Mirage was a wash. That was a 7-1. I would argue matters for quite literally nothing. Yes, it was played online. Yes, it was played against a handicapped Mirage team that has a player sick. Yeah. So the only game worthwhile to actually look at is the game against SSG in Playday 1. Problem is, that game was also played online, and Skies himself, and like I had mentioned, the game is so very different from offline compared to online. But there are still some good things to look at for this team. Gomez played Finca kind of as like a battle medic in a way. It wasn't something that Spirits was tackling. Instead, Gomez uses that mostly for stims, has an LMG, and it activates Spirits to do what he did in that game, which was a 21 kill game that included an ace, and he was fantastic on the entry. The other part about this team is they're setting the meta, so to speak, and have been for quite some time. They were early adopters on the idea of continue to play around picks. If it means a whole bunch of utility, if it means there is always backup for one person pushing, these guys, the reason they've been so fun to watch has been because as soon as one player shows up, usually the entire rest of the team isn't very far behind.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is the thing we have to talk about too is that each one of these teams fielded an MVP last week, isn't that right?
That's right, and Spirits, the first one that we got in Playday number 1. He's currently the highest rated player in the league, 25-13 overall from the league, 7-2 on entry. He's been having a fantastic start to the season. This is Playday 1 where he got that insane 21 kill game. A little quieter against Mirage, but that wasn't a bad game. That was just one where, he had to sit back and let his teammates claw it down a little bit. But he's a very good player. Obviously, he can flex around to that Finca and Yana depending on what he wants to play. Was rocking a lot of that Yana Playday 1, did bring in some more of the Finca for a little bit more firepower in Playday 2. And important to note in this match in particular, Spirits going against his former team in Parabellum. Used to play on this squad back in Challenger League. They had a really long run together, honestly. Right. French-Canadian going up against the Canadian org as well. So there's a little bit of bad blood there.
Helped them get into NAL.
That he did.
Yeah, he was there in that relegation match when they actually beat XSET. That's the other thing about this series that's kind of crazy is that this is a matchup that sent XSET out of the league at the end of 2021 before the league expanded, and they got back in with a different roster. So different squad, obviously, for XSET, but there's a bit of org history there, too.
Very clearly, he had an idea about what he was getting himself into, because if he wasn't with that Parabellum team in Stage 1, he wouldn't have gone to the Major with this XSET squad, and he was a really pivotal part that got them there in the first place, so he knew what he was doing when he made that switch, for sure.
I think so. But we do have to talk about Parabellum as well, because this is a team, again, making seemingly big strides from where they were back in Stage number 1. Parabellum, again, putting on a very mediocre performance, but then the additions of Blaz and Gunner came in.
It's kind of crazy how fast they were able to intertwine with one another. I would argue there were still some concerns at the beginning of this stage about how mature these guys are going to be, because we understand Gunner's reputation. This guy just turned 18 a little while ago. He's not been able to play in professional play for all that long. Snaps in CL were honestly something that didn't happen very much. So now we look at this team also having Blaz come into the mix. Obviously, they've been workshopping with him for a while, even if he's been overseas. But it's a case where how are these two guys melding? Blaz, MVP performance, don't have much to say about it there. Gunner, crazy performance for his very first game, but I'd still argue there are some times where they swing something that they don't necessarily have to, or a moment of pure aggression that definitely can be dialed back a little bit that they don't have to get super crazy with. So this PB team, in spite of looking good through 2 games, feels like they can refine it and still be even better.
It's not technically a flawless record so far. They did lose their opening game, but that was an 8-7 against Oxygen on their best map of Theme Park. I gotta say, I think Parabellum played very well in that first game as well. And the big reason why PB have done so well, I think, has to be Blaz. Blaz has been the second MVP that we had in our league. Again, really been rocking out with that Azami, the main operator that we've been focused on for a lot of these games. She's of course brand new in this stage for competitive play, and Blaz has been, I think, using her probably better than anybody else. I've loved the positions that he's been able to rock with her on Theme Park. Been able to use a lot of this operator throughout the games that Parabellum have been able to play, and he can get kind of aggressive with Gunner. You know, sometimes these two as a duo will be running out, getting some jump outs. We saw that on the Villa game against Astralis, so that was huge from them, and it makes that space, right? It's able to open things up for Parabellum, let their kind of support players, their anchor players, then hold things down towards the end of the round.
Found it interesting as well that when we talked to Penguin earlier about how this team was going to mesh together, he was like, hey, it's going to be 4 guys gunning and then me in the back line. But that actually isn't what they've looked at, because he's been the one to pick up the Zof and the Ying a little bit more often, and it's been Kool-Aid who will rock the back line, playing the Habana and worrying about hard support duties. So it's nice that I think Penguin is one of those kind of guys who can thrive in a flex IGL position, not necessarily entry, so to speak, but he's the one picking up the odd operators, the ones that need to flank watch for some reason. He feels like when Eska's the one that needs to play the vertical, he's usually the one on sledge of the buck more often than not. He's the guy who is able to take charge in the middle of chaos and find like carve a path through it in order to get to the site. So it's nice that this is the way that we're seeing PB mature. It was good for stage 1, but stage 2 still looks like it could be even better.
You think when Kool-Aid comes through a wall in this game, he yells, "Oh yeah," into comms?
Only when he plays Oryx.
I think he has to. I think it's mandatory. Let's take a look at the map though. Let's find out where they're playing.
All right, so Parabellum XSET, what do we like? Parabellum has never really liked Bank all that much. It's a map that they did try playing a couple of times, but it was mostly because TSM took them to it back during the SI calls, but that was a considerable it was a very long time ago. XSET, if you ever find a time where they play Cafe, it's very, very rare. Parabellum have never liked Clubhouse throughout their history, and XSET opting to take Theme Park off the board because they've played it twice over the past 3 months and have yet to win it once. Last couple of bans in here. It's interesting that Parabellum are now shying away from Chalet. It felt like they used to be Chalet Kings a long time ago. That was their baby back in Challenger League along with Villa, but now that it's in pro play, it doesn't feel like it's really gotten back up to the same standard that it ever used to be, and XSET just opting to remove Villa, so we get down to our last 3.
Oregon, Border, and Skyscraper are our finals. I would love to see an Oregon between these two squads. There's potential for otherwise. We're going to get it. Woo. Both these teams are huge on Oregon. XSET undefeated through the NAL over both Sonics and Space Station. They did lose it at the Major to Astralis. It was a 7-5 game, and I think they still look quite good in it. Parabellum on Oregon dominated in Challenger League last year. One play in Stage 1 on the final day. They beat Mirage 7-4. The only reason they didn't play it more in Stage 1 is because many teams were banning it against them, and rightfully so.
Indeed. Well, we've analyzed it, we've broken it down, and now it's time to make some predictions to see who we think are going to take this first map. First, let's send it over to our casters. Blue and Stokes, have you mulled it over? Have you thought about it? Is Blue going to send it to Stokes right away?
No, he's not, because I've got my prediction ready to go, and I already know who I'm going to be throwing it towards. It's going to be Parabellum, I think, for this match, actually. I agree with the assessment from Jacob earlier when he was stating that that like XSET may have, there's a possibility rather that XSET may have not been like really tested yet because of the circumstances surrounding their first 2 games. Parabellum has not really been dealing with that. I feel like they've shown some really good stuff in these first 2 games, and I think they're going to take the victory today.
Wow, all right. Stokes, do you agree?
Honestly, I've been sitting here mulling it over for probably the last like 15 minutes. This is a really, really hard game to call, especially so early in the morning for us. I would definitely say that it's got to be Parabellum, though. XSET, I don't think they've been tested yet, and honestly, these last 2 games, they haven't convinced me. Parabellum's been very convincing so far this stage, and I got to keep that 80% win rate somehow.
Wow, all right. Both our casters going with Parabellum. We'll check back in with them once the game actually begins. But now we take it to our analysts. And what do you think, Jesse? What's this sly grin on your face for?
I mean, I think both casters are wrong. I think that this game is going to be very frag-focused. I think we're going to see a lot of scrappy gunfights. And I think when I look at these 2 squads, the big thing that sticks out to me is depth. Parabellum, Blaz and Gunner are great, but we haven't seen a whole lot from Eska so far this stage. Their supports haven't been huge either. But on XSET, you've got Kino, Spirits, Diaz, Gomez, Yaga. All these players can pop off and have big games. I'm going to go XSET.
I just like the way that XSET played Oregon against Space Station. They brought sometimes 8 nades, no hard breeds, sometimes Flores for top floor utility clears. And it had like mixed results, but I feel like that's the kind of thing that this XSET team should be able to refine even further. And they beat a Space Station team, which on paper, I still think is about equals right now with where Parabellum sit. So if XSET play it the exact same way and Parabellum can't counter them very much, I think XSET could totally take this game.
Yeah, certainly possible. So we've got 2 casters saying XSET. We've got, or 2 casters saying Parabellum, 2 analysts saying XSET. Let's see what the coin says. Now this is, I admit, I forgot the regular coin at home.
What?
So we've got, I know, it's true. So
we have
we've
we've
got a sub coin. Luckily, Eddie over in our production team.
Is that Gara?
A 1999 Kennedy $half. That's right, which will be subbing in today. So we'll see how it does. Heads is going to be XSET. Tails is going to be Parabellum. It's a little bit smaller, so we'll see if I
It's an American $half, so it won't pick XSET.
Let's see what it is. It's Tails. Ooh.
I knew it.
The coin predicts Parabellum for the first time this stage. It's a different coin, though. So.
Yeah.
Does it really count?
I mean, well, we'll see.
I'm skeptical.
A coin is a coin. It's not the object. It is the force of chance that we're judging here, of course. So any coin can do it, really. Let's see what the fans have to say about that. Fan vote went the way of XSET.
Even split.
Okay.
Yep.
I think that's not super surprising, given that XSET has the most recent performance. Maybe a little bit of recency bias there, but we'll see what happens. Obviously, both teams capable of taking it. And our community poll, the question that you have to answer is: Brazil or France? Who has better imports?
They're not imports. They're not. They live here. They've lived here for a long time.
They are NA now. We've adopted them. They are North American players.
They're still from Brazil, though.
Exactly.
Yes.
But maybe some Brazilian fans would disagree. We'll see. Either way, we'll find out who takes this one in just a few. Do not go anywhere when we come back. The first map of the day here at the Rainbow Six North American League coming at you.
I've really been addicted to you. All of my attention I've been giving to you. Caught up in my feelings, I got feelings for you. Caught up in my feelings, I got feelings for you. On my mind, I can't lie. On my mind, I can't lie. Pull you down till you dry. Pull you down till you dry. All the time, ease my mind. All the time.
I'm Kool-Aid, and this is the NAL.
Welcome back once again, ladies and gentlemen, to the North American League. Time to get into our first matchup of the week and of the day, of course. About to be quite an exciting one, given the way that these two teams have been playing so far throughout the stage. Parabellum, of course, having an excellent resurgence, and XSET kind of staying in the position they have been, dominating throughout the region so far, looking to take another top 4 finish here, as we're already nearly halfway through stage 2 and just a few more play days away. Stokes, let's get your opening take on this matchup now, as we get prepared to jump into Oregon yet again.
Oh, it's murky waters for the first game of the day, John. It's going to be Oregon between XSET and Parabellum, and Oregon presents quite a few issues for a myriad of different teams across the entire world. It's always a map that's kind of a coin flip. You really never know exactly what's going to go down, and I think that's what we have on our hands right here. You and I picked Parabellum for this matchup. We are actually in line with the new coin, so hopefully the new coin's got some shine on it that hasn't been rubbed off by Doa just yet.
Cursed coin.
Yeah, exactly. We'll have
Not
to see,
accepted
right?
in this church.
Exactly. But as for XSET, I think that they've had some very, very strong showing so far, particularly on Oregon, where we actually did see Spirits drop 21 kills in their previous matchup, which was pretty impressive. But up against Parabellum and the way that they've been playing, well, at least in recent history, I think that we definitely have a game on our hands and one that Parabellum could quite potentially edge out.
Yep, it's going to come down to the 2 new members of the squad, or newer on the active roster, at least for this squad, mainly in the form of Blaz and Gunnar. You probably heard the devs talk about quite a bit. These 2 additions have added and really kind of lit a fire under the butt of Parabellum here, because they have shown much better increased aggressive capabilities inside of their matchups ever since we've seen those 2 added in. It should be noted that the more recent match they played against Astralis on the last Playday, Gunnar had some more mixed results. Obviously didn't stand in the way of the team too much. They still had a fairly close game, but Gunnar fell off a little bit, so that's going to be a big part of today, probably how Parabellum performs. If we're able to see that bounce back a little bit against XSET, things will probably be looking great for this squad. If not, we could be in a position where XSET are able to dominate, just like we saw when they played this against SSG earlier last week.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, we haven't even touched on the fact of Blaz yet either. Blaz, quite an influential presence, you could say, when it comes to Parabellum and the way they've been playing the game recently. I mean, I think this team looks very solid overall, especially with what Penguin's been able to produce. But as of right now for Parabellum, I mean, it really feels like this is going to be one of the more difficult matchups for them throughout the stage. You know, teams like XSET, teams like Astralis, that we actually ended up seeing last week from them, and which I actually lost that pick. That was one of the ones I lost in the last 2 weeks, was the Astralis versus Parabellum game, because I picked Astralis. So, you know, I think that one of the things right now is that you cannot discount Parabellum, especially up against some of these top teams. They've found what they want for a squad, and now it's really starting to work out. We'll see if it works out up against XSET, though. Oregon booting up now on the server, folks. It's going to be a banger to start us off here on a Tuesday. Hope you guys got your coffee or whatever else you like around this time of the evening if you're in Europe, or the morning if you're over in NA. Let's get into it, see what these bands will be like here for Parabellum.
Let's indeed hop into it and check out the bands. Parabellum has got the first as well as the final one. XSET has the 2 center ones. First operator.
We're starting off with the memes just so early today.
Good one there. But yeah, Flores will be banned out, so he's going to be removed from the pool. Then we'll take him away, and the second one should be coming up in a second here.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, it was taking a minute there.
Yeah,
but
I was like, all right, are we moving along?
Yeah, Flores is indeed still banned. He can't be played. So yes, indeed, we're going to have the Rotero wielding man taken out, and no longer have access to those explosive drones that are so useful when it comes to Oregon and clearing out a lot of the utility that is usually front loaded on quite a few of these different sites. As for the first offensive ban, XSET will get rid of Monty. This is kind of a spot ban. You're usually trying to throw this in if you know a team wants to try and prioritize Monty, or if you know it's going to be a map where they could potentially use him later on as like an audible, try and push out some of those positions like we were talking about before. Monty is a good advocate for a situation like that. XSET will be banning out the first defender here, and they choose to take out Wamai. This ban phase taking a little bit. Both of these teams thinking quite a bit about what they want to do, apparently, or at least just really enjoying all chat.
Yeah, I think it's more so the chat than anything right now, to be honest with you. The final ban is going to get locked in pretty quickly.
Oh, no fun, Parabellum.
Yep, but unfortunately for the people at home that are a fan of new strategies, probably not going to get too much out of this game with the zombie being knocked out, so that is going to remove her from this play, and we are probably going to wait a second before we actually get into the first round, guys. You may have caught it there out of the corner of your eye, but someone from XSET, I think, had to reset their PC or something real quick, so we're just working on getting them back in.
Can we just talk about the angle at which Blaz plays video games for a second? Are you looking at this screen?
With the further back monitor?
The angled monitor pushed all the way back. It's like basically touching the desk. Like this is like the first time that I saw Shaco play, and I was like, what is going on here? Like full on elbow across the table.
Used to a smaller desk, I guess, you know?
I mean, I guess so. I have seen over the years, especially for like Siege comp, I have seen some of the craziest setups just to play like CL quals. Like people putting their like entire setup inside of like the guest closet.
Any lap keyboarders in your time? You ever caught any of this?
The strangest thing I've ever seen was there was this gentleman. I don't think it was Siege. It was another title, but it was either speedrunning or esports related, and he played with his keyboard up over his shoulder because he had a full-size keyboard and he had no desk space for it, so he used it almost like a half guitar and like put his arm around to play with the WASD keys. It was the strangest thing I've ever seen.
That's a new one for me.
Yeah, definitely weird. But I mean, hey, when you're trying to gamer, you got to find a way, you know.
I've noticed there's regional styles for how the more eccentric keyboard players or keyboard holders will set them up on their desk. But either way, we're getting a little bit off topic here as the round is finally getting started. Not too much that's super surprising when it comes to the defensive setup, which is why we didn't talk too much about it here. We do, of course, have the Thorn coming out from Gunnar. We'll talk more about that when it becomes relevant, though. As aside from this is very much an expected hold here. Maybe a bit roam heavy in terms of the operator selection, but still should be perfectly fine for maintaining basement control.
Yeah, it's more of a ghost pressure coming out from Parabellum. You can see some rotations that they've built up for the defensive end just in case like XSET lets them slip through main stairs or something like that, but past that, it's just going to be a straightforward clear here for XSET. Not too much to worry about overall. It'll just be Parabellum trying to challenge up the stairwells and things like that. And then for XSET, it's all about getting these hatches early on here. They brought some pretty strong utility when it comes to clearing the basement, especially with the EU1Ds. They'll be able to lock up a lot of the positionings of Parabellum, and especially without the mute jammers, it's going to be pretty complicated for them, just because obviously the EU1Ds will lock them down in that position. But it's going to take a little while for XSET to not only get to that spot, but also drone out the remainder of this and make sure that Parabellum is indeed in the spot that they think they are. Don't have to worry too much about the rotations, though, as Parabellum will more than likely not be challenging, at least that aggressively early on here. Still plenty of time and plenty of hatches, as well as other utility for XSET to clear out.
Indeed, will continue to do so, approaching the meeting room now, and that'll give them access to the hatch, of course. Parabellum not playing into any type of roam game fairly heavily at all, in fact. They've already ghosted themselves back down into the basement and are simply waiting things out inside of their bunker setup for XSET to make the next move and to attempt to take construction control, or as well to attempt to hop down through one of these hatches or the stairwells. XSET, of course, not going to have the confidence to go directly into that for another 30 or 40 seconds here. They do need to get some drone presence down into the basement to get a better idea of exactly how Parabellum has set up their operators and utility before they attempt to try and breach past it.
Well, Gunnar with a pretty aggressive look when it came to main stairs, but fortunately enough for him, not a single XSET member near lobby. Could have potentially have died to the hatch player if anybody was there, but obviously not the case. Spirits will deal with Pillar after giving his first nade over to the Siege Gods. Well, actually, no, it was a stun from one of his teammates, so actually played that situation out quite properly. Still have another nade inside of the pocket. And speaking of nades, Gomez is going to use the rest of his, but Yaga still has quite a few. He won't be able to push forward with that Adrenal Surge activated, as the smoke will actually deal more damage to him than regularly. Laz awaiting someone's arrival when it comes to this elbow area, but nobody just yet. XSET making some pretty solid time, though, with only 37 seconds left. Still have a couple of things to clear out, but it's not Sweatsville just yet. Gomez and everybody else will be holding on to elbow. You can see how Parabellum, they're slowly allowing this map control, bending but not breaking. That's what you're looking for when it comes to a situation like this. Yaga's got the lineup for the shield player, but unfortunately enough, the Thorn is actually going to take out Spirits. That's the big problem with those Death Blossoms. And have yet again another stun pouring in. Yaga will be able to claim one, but this M590 still inside of elbow. I highly doubt there's any Parabellum member that can potentially win out this fight. It's actually all XSET all the time, and that's going to be case control, and Kool-Aid will go down. Fortunate enough for XSET, they have a few saving graces in the back pocket, and one of those just happens to be Yaga inside of Freezer Hallway.
So close for both teams inside of that situation there. XSET just barely able to bleed their way into a winning position, and a fatal mistake for the last player alive on Parabellum as well. They seem to believe that they have relative security from that position after they take down the players in sight, but unfortunately, literally in the dying second of the round, they're able to bring it back, knock that player out, and give us an attacker-sided round in the favor of XSET as they take control of it. We're getting ourselves in the second round, and we are going to see a reattempt for Parabellum. Kind of expected here considering how close things were. They're even going to double down on the trap utility now as well. Gunnar, of course, bringing back the Thorn into the fold, but Blaz will also now deploy a cap can into this lineup also.
Very smart setup here from Parabellum. I like that they're going back down to the basement. It's the most defendable site when it comes to Oregon, one that you want to try and guarantee a majority of the time. Parabellum looking into that matchup right there, obviously noticing that XSET took quite a while to clear out everything on the mid floor and work their way down into their potential execution. And because of that, they're going to bring some more denial operators, including the mute jammers, which could assist them with not only holding onto these walls, but also having a little bit more free movement when it comes to their hard stuck positions with that Lion. So as long as it's around something like the deployable shield or something for one of the Parabellum members, they'll be able to move around the radius of that Moon Jammer while that EE1D goes off. Pretty sneaky play here from Parabellum. We'll see if it actually gets checked out. Well, unfortunately enough for Gunner, he's actually just going to end up getting that at least first hologram, and he'll back off from that. But now Penguin, this is quite cheeky from them, playing this out in a duo situation. Should be a freebie here for him, but Penguin, oh no! He shot so early here. This is practically a fish in a barrel situation. Now Penguin's actually just going to get away. There's nobody home, but finally, Kino has the cross already set up for White. The window seemingly closed until Kino starts sending shots at it. Be able to take down Penguin as he attempts to rotate out after an ill-advised pre-fire on Spirits hopping in small tower.
Parabellum down a player again at the start of the round here. Not what they would have wanted to happen, especially considering they tried to go for a more aggressive play this time in order to put that additional pressure out on the map to maybe bleed out that last bit of time that Parabellum would have needed to win things on the first attempt. Won't work out. Now they'll be down a player. 2 drones are going to be neutralized temporarily here from XSET, but they'll be alive again in just a second once that Mew Jammer is shot out. Apparently not going to do it so instantly, as they've got some other things to worry about here at the bottom of the freezer stairs. Kool-Aid's position will be spotted out. And even worse, he won't be able to delete the drone, so Kino will be able to continue to grab intel there at the bottom of the freezer stairs. The rest of the squad now being forced to fall back. They won't be able to play anything aggressively out for the back stair positions or anywhere else on this map. It's the same as before. Half the round is gone. Parabellum this time down a player, and now having to wait for the descent from XSET, but as Stokes just called out there, the cap can trap is finally going to yield results, and it'll manage to catch a member of XSET here with Kino going down.
Mental warfare between these two teams. You have to love esports, don't you? Frag grenade out into freezer, into the depths, but nobody home except for an ADS. They'll pick that up quite handedly. Down to the last minute, fortunately enough, a big pick from Parabellum, but an even bigger one now from XSET. After Spirits takes some damage, he'll be able to down the freezer player from Yaga's position, actually, as a frag grenade goes in. Gomez will be able to clean that one up, but it's a quick 2K here from Parabellum. Make it 3 as it's all down to Diaz Lucas, who, for some reason, is inside of Garage. I believe he was rotating away from construction to try and get a different angle for his team, but too little, too late, my friend. Gonna have to try and work his way in. Finds an E1D on the door frame, but so many people home when it comes to this situation. DS is going to have to hit some critical shots here as a freezer player. Continues to pre-fire, and this is really all you can do in a situation like this. You just have to try and spam those common angles and see if you can potentially get a kill in that environment, stun out. But yet again, Gunner swings back into the closet, able to take him down. It'll be 1-1 in favor of Parabellum, with Capcan actually playing quite handily into that.
So PB able to bring it back. They're taking much more control over most of that round as well by playing things more in the face of the XSET players. Not only that, but able to get in their way and catch them with at least one of the pieces of utility that they set up from the defensive side. So beautifully done there by Parabellum to quickly rebound, take control of their basement hold, and now lock things in for themselves. So they move upstairs for the next round here, going for a second floor defense.
Okay, upstairs, as you said, John, and this is going to be one that's going to be quite critical to Parabellum's overall defensive end here. They're able to get this, and obviously that 2-1 lead, but an even bigger part of the puzzle. Be one step closer to unlocking the basement yet again. They'll have to go to one of the tertiary sites, one of those on the middle floor. They'll utilize the kitchen as its base and more than likely switch to cafe or meeting. Just depends on what they want to try and go with. And speaking of kitchen, Parabellum's already going to be holding on to that. This is quite commonplace, yes, when it comes to this top floor, as you're trying to prevent anything like frag grenades or potentially a buck from coming underneath and trying to get rid of some of your anchor players. Parabellum are going to hold on to this because of that, as well as some other things that they've lined up across the board on this top floor. This top floor hold can be pretty volatile for the defense, just given some of the angles that the offense can get off rip, especially from this singular games window that we were just seeing there. Beautiful cross that we see repelled on quite a lot from the south side of the building. But how is XSET going to go about this? Well, first things first, they've already got Spirits out here looking to see if he can potentially get a freebie on this top floor, but nothing's going to come for the Nook in this FMG9, so he's going to fall back towards Big Tower and see if he can try and find a different entry point.
Activating shock drone.
Away from that, we're going to continue to see things devolve here with XSET looking for a clean path to get themselves upstairs. Have not been able to find it yet, and have not been able to burn out this kitchen position as of yet either. Yaga continuing to wait from the inside of it here is Gonna try and catch this off guard, but there we go. Nade rolling in towards Gunnar. That will defeat his position finally, more so the shield that was defending it, and allow him to be forced back further into the map here, giving the clearance needed for XSET to be able to move forward. Kool-Aid will strike first, however, knocking down Spirits, a fairly important player as well. Spirits actually been struggling a bit this game. Now at 0-3 as the most recent round, but there'll be plenty of time to make up for that later on in the game. Either way, though, Parabellum has the edge with the 5v4 going their way.
Oh, excuse me. I don't really know what that was. Yeah, but past that, I don't know about you, but it feels as though whenever Parabellum starts doing a lot, and what I mean by that is when we start seeing quite a few layers on these defensive setups, a lot of offenses really get caught off guard with the way that they are going to take things. It's kind of this big question mark, especially with what we're having right now. Spirits is kind of the lead man for this situation. Now we're just having XSET stand outside of Dorm's window, as well as try and come up white stairs. This is the most commonplace kind of double take you've ever seen in your life. We'll see if it works out for him. Kool-Aid still having some smokes to affect this situation. With that pick from Kino, this is definitely doable. This is the beauty of that verticality if you can't get the control down low as well, like we were talking about before. Those frag grenades can deal quite the damage to the defensive end, but now with Yaga down, Finka has to try and pick him up. Kino will be able to get one with the flame out for Blast. There's 3 people on white stairs. Blast probably screaming that to high heaven at the current moment in time as he takes out one.
Great intel either way, especially considering there's only 2 members alive now for PB. Kool-Aid has to keep constant overwatch on this big window position, more than likely calling out to Gunner's only other teammate here that he needs to be able to watch that stair spot. But Gunner's also worried about other flanks, such as from the top of main, working themselves over through attic as well. Plenty of other things that Kool-Aid may need to potentially watch out for also here. So a tense situation for PB, however, starting to work out in their favor. The timing, though, does not play into Kool-Aid's game at this point in time here. And also Gunner going to be chunked down. It's a single bit of HP. What a beautiful shot from Kool-Aid, though, to bring it back onto even terms. A 2v2. It'll add one more to it. Gunnar shows up with the perfect timing also. He knocks one more down, and the 2v3 clutch is claimed by Parabellum to put them in front of this game at 2-1.
You can just see how that works out for Parabellum, though. It's like what we were talking about there in the mid-round. Their defensive setup is so sound in a lot of different ways that it forces XSET to go for more of a default take. I mean, we have 3 people stacked on white stairs trying to assist with that take. We have no cross angle when it comes to dorms. They're only occupying the big window. We have no presence around attic. XSET didn't even try and take that. I mean, there was a lot of different, excuse me. There's a lot of different ways that XSET could have potentially have enacted themselves upon a setup like that, but they went for probably the most plain Jane way that they could have potentially have done it. Now, it almost did work, but that's the fallback of that. As Parabellum knows exactly where you're more than likely going to be coming from in a situation like that, and it's white stairs and big window, and both of those players were extremely ready for a situation like that. Parabellum with another big round, a clutch round, in fact, over XSET, got the lead 2-1.
No drones coming into that mid to late portion of the round 2. I'm going to assume the large majority of them are either dead on other players of XSET's roster or already been used and shot out there. Just because, again, they never really seem too sure of themselves on the executing side of that round either. Always, like you're saying, kind of like hovering outside of certain angles, like big window in the bottom of stairs, and never really feeling the confidence to try to go in. So we just saw 1-2 players trying to do so and ultimately getting traded down to a point where Parabellum, yes, they were still behind in the man count because of what happened at the beginning of the round, but they were still ultimately able to bring it back for the reasons you mentioned as to why XSET was bringing a fairly one-dimensional attack to the table there.
Well, we'll see if they can change some things up. I think XSET definitely has it in the tank. I think the big problem right now is Spirits. Not on the board in the same way that he'd been recently, and a lot of these other, well, these teammates of his aren't exactly pulling big numbers like he was previously, and that's something that XSET's kind of gotten used to, having one of these hero players kind of pop off and start claiming some big rounds. But we haven't seen it just yet. Good news, though, we're only through 3 rounds, so it could all start right here with XSET potentially tying things up. They have lost quite a few drones in the process, though, but fortunately enough, since they have Spirits, they'll have some extra drone economy in a certain way to be able to help their info game. Eska, as well as the rest of Parabellum, though, they've got some rotations opened up here for attic as they're playing over the top of the bomb site, exactly as they should. Gomez and the rest of XSET seemingly aware of this situation as they'll attempt to push in and clear out from the meeting side.
lack of performance out of Spirits right now could explain some of the lack of confidence we're getting from XSET 2, just because the entry game's a little lackluster. Other players may not be up to the task of replacing Spirits in the event that he goes down, but they're going to have to. It's the circumstance they've already been dealing with for the previous 3 rounds so far. Yogg's going to take the first bit of damage. That's all it is, though, as he takes a few shots, opening things up here through the walk-in closet. He'll be brought down by about 10 to 15 HP. Nothing serious in the long run of things, and you're already seeing most of it being negated by Gomez there, as the Finka still huge in the meta right now.
Nice.
Gunner waits for the opportunity. It's a bit messy, and he will get traded by Gomez, but still able to knock Spirits down again, keeping his record, unfortunately, still down to a donut.
Yeah, you want to get in somebody's head, get in the IGL's head. Just keep killing Spirits as much as you potentially can. As long as you can annoy him and try and get him off center, you could potentially have something on your hands here. XSET does a pretty bang-up job in and of themselves, though, when it comes to just playing off of each other. So not going to be the biggest of affairs when it comes down to it, but definitely something to notate either way. As for XSET, though, with this timer beginning to dwindle now, down to 40 seconds remaining, they have to try and get a pick and strong-arm their way into this site, but the pick almost going the way of Parabellum. Kool-Aid now taking some damage back onto himself, but Yaga already looking pretty poor when it comes to the HP bar. Knows that the Habana has to be around here. Kino, oh my, what a shot from him. Oh, Penguin can't land his either through the attic wall. 2 big picks for XSET as they're looking for round 4.
Great counterplay coming in from Kino, and that's going to swing the site wide open for the taking. Kool-Aid with the follow-up, though, trades at least 1 back down. Plant still going off uninterrupted. Kino will be able to get that down on the ground. Kino didn't have the confidence to swing over towards security and stop him outright. Even worse, Kool-Aid's going to get caught mid-reload as Kino now re-swings the security angle, takes him down. Blaz will catch 1, but he's got 2 more players to knock out here. And he's stuck between a rock and a hard place in the depths of the site. Going to try and battle out from it to go towards Yellow Hallway. That doesn't really push him outside of this box position. Gives him at least a winnable duel versus Diaz, but no, won't be able to take it. Diaz will win it instead, and XSET tie us up again now at 2-2.
I mean, Kino, count your lucky stars, go get a lottery ticket, go do anything. Because, like, the amount of luck that this man had in those situations right there was insane. The timing, especially on the top floor, to not only get 1, but to get 2 inside of Trophy. I mean, you can't ask for anything more. Poor Eska gets timinged on top floor. He thinks that the guy is trying to rotate up to the rotation hole he just went through for meeting, but in fact, or rather for master, but in fact, he's doubled back over into Trophy. Just a super unfortunate situation for most of the Parabellum members trying to fight against Kino, but Kino landing all of his shots in all those situations as well. So it's just one of those things. Sometimes Rainbow Six Siege is just going to be Rainbow Six Siege, and it works out for XSET in this regard. A triple for Kino there, one that was definitely preventable, even all the way down to the wire. I mean, even Smoke taking out the Overwatch on the planter. He doesn't know if anybody else is there, doesn't get too aggressive on it, but he most definitely could have walked up and just iced Kino right there, and that would have been the round. There's a lot of different ways that they could have went down, but fortunately enough for XSET, not only did they have the kills, but they had the objective play as well to seal the deal.
Well, Parabellum have had a sequence of 2 rounds pass by, which means they have unlocked the basement for a retry since they took control of it a few rounds back. Let's see if this will lock in their 3rd round, or if XSET still has the winning formula to breach past this defensive setup, work their own way into the basement, and steal away this lead for a 2nd time. As far as the Parabellum setup is concerned, they're not going to rely on the traps again, as we saw on the most recent attempt, the Capcan pickup specifically, giving them at least 1 frag over the course of that round. They will still keep the Thorn in play, of course, but they'll go back to something more akin to what they had in round number 1 here, with a little bit of extra intel being added into it, because Penguin will play onto the Valkyrie here.
Yeah, those Razor Blooms quite strong, as we saw earlier on in the game. Now for XSET, very quick move into Freezer. Gomez has a look just for a second from the smoke. Kool-Aid with a very, very fast challenge and the potential to lose his noggin, but just testing the reaction time of Gomez there. And speaking of, oh my God,
he failed
Kool-Aid. Yeah. No, Gomez passed. He definitely passed.
I would say Kool-Aid failed testing his opponent.
Yes, indeed. You know, I think he went a little bit too far, and you could say the same for Kino. This is just something that happens sometimes. You just assume, right? You assume you're safe. You assume you got the pick. Nobody's going to challenge it. Sometimes you die inside a Z.
Saw Kool-Aid go a little bit too far, but thankfully Gunnar went just far enough, so he's able to pick up that kill against Kino, take him down, and re-equalize things down into a 4 versus 4. Eska, meanwhile, here, just going to patiently wait in the pillar corner spot. See if some more resistance works its way down those stairs, and it will. So you're going to see actually a big group build up here from XSET. Nades going deep to bank into that corner, but thankfully it's read by Parabellum. Esco will get himself out of that corner, back down further into the hallway here. Wait for the actual push to happen. Not going to be transpiring anytime soon. XSET still has a little bit more intel gathering to do, specifically deeper in the site. While yes, Eska is alone currently in the position behind the pillar, and they may have very well just realized that there is still some support elsewhere, such as this from Blaz. Has the peek through inside of that soft wall to knock out players trying to venture forward through the back stairs. Blaz get baited a little bit here, but thankfully the player that is on the camera is also the one back in construction, so no immediate threat of a re-peek against Blaz. And as well, the second player trying to work their way back down through the back stairs,
Gunner.
I think has been fended off. Indeed, Stokes just mentioned it. We've got this nice play from Gunner being lined up too as he snuck up through the freezer stairs and has now lined up a flank position against the rest of this push from XSET.
Has to be snappy, has to be quick. EE1D out, but he's been marked on the mid floor. He's just going to start sprinting back down the stairs. He needs to be present inside of this 4 versus 3, but no, he's actually shifted over towards meeting. Knows somebody has to try and check him out, and they will. Yaga of the challenge, waiting for the swing, and the case down. It's down upstairs. Spirits has to try and come get it. 0-4-1. It'd be his first kill of the day, but it won't come through. Gunner takes him down, and the IGL can't get it done. Parabellum guaranteed the won't split half if it ends up going that way, a tied half in fact, and so claim round 3 for themselves as we head into round 6.
Definitely still going to want to try and get 4 if possible here, just because of the fact of the way that this map tends to play, still fairly defender-sided to an extent.
And also, good news, top floor is unlocked.
Very true.
Very, very true. So they'll probably head up there. As we were talking about previously, they are going to get that basement unlocked once again, and they did. They go downstairs. They're successful at it. 2 out of their 3 defensive rounds so far have been on that basement floor. The other one being on the top floor. So looks like we have a ball game here. Potential for Parabellum to take quite a hefty lead here early on. A 4-2 split.
XSET, in the meanwhile, was showing us some pretty interesting picks in the operator pool, and we're still going to see a few of those swapped around, such as the Capitao coming from Kino, being moved away over towards the more normal pick of what was a Hibana, but is now changed over towards a Twitch, so a lot more aggression coming in here from the XSET roster to try and possibly make these entries work out a bit better for them. Spirits has still been struggling in that department, and Gomez, I think on the fallback here, has had more mixed results at 5-5. Overall, Kino is the only positive player at the moment, so they're going to give him the freedom to go onto the Twitch and maybe add that little bit of extra aggression, at least to the entry game, that might be needed for XSET to get their feet onto the ground, and more importantly, into this site where they have been struggling a bit.
Well, XSET has struggled in more than the entry department. Really, it's been clearing the map when Parabellum goes for some of these advanced setups that are just more layered when it comes to some of the positioning of these defensemen. Like what we see currently downstairs inside of Split, Parabellum forcing XSET to try and take map control to work the map the way they want to. You can see XSET, they've packed the depth charges here. They have 8 frag grenades, but they have no way of clearing anything out minus the smokes, or potentially a little piece of something else. But wow, what a shot there from Gunner. He'll take down Gomez. It'll be a trade back and forth, but I mean, I will take Oryx for, you know, Finka literally any day of the week.
It's also like he was out on an island at that point. He was probably going to die anyway, regardless, so we had to try and do something there, and guaranteeing a 1-for-1 is probably the best, one of the best outcomes out of that situation.
But it's more than a 1-for-1 because it's Oryx for Finka.
That's true.
These things do not have the same weight, but that definitely does. Kool-Aid would go down yet again here. A big pickup from XSET. They had this the last round. The smoke dead, the chance to work their way into sight because of it. Looks like it'll rear its ugly head yet again. We'll see if XSET can force this angle, or if Parabellum can come back in the top floor yet again here like they did the previous time. This one, though, a little bit easier to palatate, rather, as Parabellum will be able to at least occupy quite a few different areas, including the window angle, but DS ready for that as he'll swing into Penguin. He's ready for Parabellum's antics, but are they ready for this push?
A lot of ego challenges coming out for Parabellum on this round, and possibly oblivious to the drone intel as well. So many of them just constantly flooding in, especially upstairs there from XSET. So we see Parabellum trying to make these aggressive plays, trying to go for these swings. Ultimately, it's right into an angle that XSET had more than prepared themselves to take a challenge at, however, so they're easy kills across the board for XSET, and they have no problem locking in that third round.
Sorry about that. I said to finish up the stretch a little bit there for a second. But you know, it was definitely quite an interesting half there from Parabellum. That last round is going to be one that they're going to want to go back and look at in particular.
Yeah.
You get the big pick on the Finka. the callback from that moment is there's a very big story that's going on in the defense there. And it's a conversation that you kind of have to have and be like, all right, listen, we need to pull everything back at this moment in time. I think the big thing there is, I was looking at my notes when this was happening and that kill happened. I believe he got shot through the cafeteria wall, right? He just randomly shot through the wall and killed somebody. I think that's more than likely why that comm went down the way that it did.
He could, you're talking about the first...
Yeah, I'm talking about the first
PB
engagement.
kill, right?
Yeah.
No, he could see him, I'm pretty sure. It was like a clutch shot, but I think he could see him.
Okay.
I think there was a breach in the wall there.
Yeah, but either way, whichever way it goes, I mean, if he had the info, then they really, really need to fall back. If not, it's just a big pick, and they really don't know who's dead. But, like, if you know the weight or the value of Fink in that situation, then obviously the call would be to try and dip out and play it off of sight. But for Parabellum, it just went a little bit too far. And I think the big thing past that was obviously the smoke going down, no more prevention when it comes to the actual site, unless you count the lead inside of the guns, but that's really not going to assist them too much, as that's the plain way of doing that. Won't deny space like you want to with that smoke. We're about 25 seconds in here now, folks, as we'll be working our way in from the Parabellum side of things now, as they'll be on the offense.
So Parabellum looking to change up their fate after they are able to at least bring an even score line to bear here between both of these teams. Now needing to show us the other side of their strategy, though. Will it be enough to breach past the XSET defenses? Well, Yaga at least seems to want a direct challenge here at the top of Freezer stairs. Penguin also will get downed, and nearly get down a second time as he's facing off in T3. He gets a player down in T2. Finka literally saves the day here and gives PB their opening kill because the player from XSET tries to retreat downstairs, thinking Penguin was just dead on the ground. Little did he know that the Finka was going to immediately bring him back up, allow for the exchange to go back into the favor of Parabellum, and now with the other kill they've negotiated for themselves, already have brought this round down to a 5v3.
And yet again, Parabellum, they're going to have a down player. Gunner's going to get picked back up. Kino will be able to take down Blaz. He's going to continue to swing. I love this aggressive look from him. Going to swing out of the freezer stairwell and would be ill-advised as there are so many people around the area. I love the aggression here from Kino. He knows how strong this M590 is, and he's using it so very well, but he can't land some of the bigger shots there. Unfortunate, as he'll only be able to tag up a couple of players, but the big thing right now is look at the amount of HP Parabellum has gotten back out of those adrenal surges. Tell me Finka isn't worth her weight in gold. You would practically give anybody over on the defense if you could trade out this operator. It's truly incredible what she's able to produce on a round-to-round basis and just the value that she has. Penguin, he's going to get tagged up here. Not too much to call back on past that. It's down into the 4 versus 2. Parabellum, they can take their time. Still 3 drones active. Yaga's going to get a big pick here because nobody knows that Yaga's trying to get aggressive inside of Freezer. And he's almost equalized it here. Parabellum, they're letting it slip through the cracks. They continue to be aggressive on more of an isolated basis. This could be XSET's round.
XSET stuck in a cage, but they're going to fight with every inch and claw they have to stall the execution out. It's Parabellum now bringing it down to a 3v2 from the 4v2 advantage they had initially, taking things very cautiously, or they were at least up until this 30-second marker. Now they're just going to leap in through the E-hatch, try to push themselves into sight. But Yaga, he's ready for the challenge in multiple apartments. Misreads here, thinks there's going to be some pressure coming in from Freezer. He's not correct about that, but Gomez still able to grab another player, and the last one as well will be scooped up by Yaga. XSET with a beautiful comeback there inside of the 2vx. They close out this initial basement defense.
Oh, that was not the way Parabellum wanted that to break down at all. You have a 4 versus 2, and not only that, but you have some of the freest picks early on possible. But they just overswing. Blaz coming down. Freezer, this aggressive look here from Yaga. You know, Parabellum trying to do just a little bit too much and not trying to keep it on the straight and narrow at the current moment. It's a little bit of an oversight there, but definitely something they can try and ring in and claim rounds like that. Not one you want to see them losing up against XSET, but I can tell you this, Yaga especially playing lights out inside of that situation, abusing every single angle that Parabellum would potentially give them, and winning out every single fight that was given to him. I mean, he's definitely the highlight of that round for me from XSET.
Definitely the case. So time to see if XSET can keep things consistent now, as that has been the big problem for them. They've had no problem finding rounds, but winning them consistently to take a serious lead has been the issue, not only for them, but for PB as well here. PB gonna throw us a bit of a curveball. I was waiting to see it get locked in. I don't believe we're getting any repicks though, so it will be the case in a moment here, and there it goes. We are going to have the Blitz coming out hot for Penguin here. Let's see if it yields results, as we've started to see him get picked more and more here on Oregon.
Well, it's time for the interesting part of this conversation. This isn't a basement defense from XSET.
That was going to be my next point.
Which means that a lot of the close quarter situations you're looking for in Blitz aren't exactly going to be presented in a site like this. There's a couple of areas in which Blitz could be very useful. The big one, Trophy, and it's just going to be pressure so that Gunnar can more than likely hold the cross here. We're about to find out if I'm right. Penguin's already pushing up the stairwell. I'm assuming he's trying to get everyone to fall back from Trophy and fall into that LMG that's holding the game's window. You can see some more pressure coming up from the staircase here, but when you don't know that there's a cross from Attic, you're probably going to die, and that's going to be 2 people going down. Kool-Aid will be able to refrag onto Kino, but what's it worth? I mean, it is the smoke, but still so much site utility to worry about really when it comes down to it. Still the Nitro cells, as well as some good info game from Yogg, depending on where these cameras are. DS will be able to cross. They weren't even able to get the kill onto Gunnar, who was the other kill, or rather, they weren't able to get the kill onto the Valkyrie crossing because Gunnar had ended up dying already. And Yaga continuing to do what Yaga does best, take these gunfights and win them out. This MPX looks so dastardly in his hands. It's all down to Kool-Aid, and Spirits will win that out too as he simply pushes the closet. Parabellum can't get anything done on this offensive side.
Parabellum throwing a little bit of a curveball strategy out there to see if it works, and that's not surprising given the fact that we've seen them do this in the past. Just unfortunate here as it does flatline the entire round as soon as the blitz dies.
Listen, I'm not trying to be rude or anything, but I don't care what you do for a strategy. I care if you still drone and know what's going on inside of the site before you do said strategy. A strategy like that with Blitz trying to apply that pressure in that way, if that wall's open, you're in trouble. The fact that they didn't confirm what was going on whilst still having to clear, main stairs utility and everything else, so at a bare minimum, you can assume XSET knows that you're going to be using that stairwell. You don't take that time to try and find some extra insight as to what's going on. You still have 3 other people doing things outside. You still have 1 person downstairs, I guess, throwing some frag grenades and stuff like that. But what are the other 2 people doing? I mean, we have Gunnar on the window. That accounts for 1. So again, we're still down to 2. So it's just like, all right, what's the situation here? We're not really utilizing their drones early to try and get any information. We're really just not doing too much. We're just trying to throw things at the wall and hope that it sticks. It seems like just a little bit of mismanagement of like people's roles at that current situation for Parabellum, which is extremely unfortunate because it was definitely a strategy that could have worked. I mean, if Blitz is aware of that wall being open, they could definitely have ended up, pushing that pressure like they wanted to through Trophy, forcing everybody back and actually having them die to Gunnar on that window rappel, but it was all for naught because of 2 big mistakes. The assumed swing that we saw from XSET that I'm assuming killed Gunnar, and also the big misread as to what was going on inside of Trophy.
Could have explained why we see a sudden pause show up from the PB camp. Things are getting a little bit dire in terms of the scoreboard here now as well. XSET only 2 rounds away from being able to close this map out, so PB need to wake up. They need to do so immediately. Few repicks are going to show up for this squad. Not huge, though, in terms of what they contribute towards just swapping the Thatcher out over towards a Zofia, and then a changeup of hard breach style for Kool-Aid going over towards the Thermite instead here, possibly expecting the cafeteria hold instead of the stage ones, just needing to give them the more proper loadout to approach that one. Also, probably getting a better look at the defenses here, seeing that we only have the mute for mitigation, so maybe realize that the Thatcher was a little bit unnecessary for their assault.
Oh,
Yaga, what's going on there?
What the hell just happened there?
I think that was like shotgunning.
No, that was definitely Blaz. That was 100% Blaz. They traded outside, I'm assuming, and Yaga just took a lot of damage. DS Lucas also going to go down. Parabellum with another pick yet again, but we'll see if they can get anything done with it. Kitchen player here, Blaz most definitely hearing that. XSET starting to get away with quite a bit, and I'm surprised that Blaz has to reload so early here. I don't know how many LMG bullets he used inside of a minute, but wow, okay. Looks like Parabellum already, they're going down. They're going downtown. Finally, Blaz will be able to hop in and get a kill after reloading that LMG and going through the longest animation known to mankind. Spirits will be backed off of Big Tower Stairs, and somehow, some way, Blue, we have reached a 3 versus 3.
It's been a bit of a Looney Tunes round so far.
Blaz has a kill.
Blaz picking up another kill.
And we're playing
puts it into the favor of PB. Gomez does not have the angle from the top down, but at the same time, Caseholder is going to hop off it for a second. Penguin does not feel he is safe, so he moves away. Spirits may have called something out on the back flank. They may have forced that player to move. Something has made them believe that they do not have a safe plant here, so they're going to hold off on it. Finally going to be seeing Penguin repick that back up, but at the same time, Gunnar has been hunting down a member of the XSET roster. He will succeed in taking them down. Spirits is out for the count. Gomez, previously upstairs, now the only player left alive here inside of the 1v3. He's got to try and find some way to reinsert himself into the building, as this is a round that I don't think either of us expected Parabellum to necessarily come out on top of it, but they do manage to get things done.
How come we always have to get the games that there's so much going on that it makes my head spin at the earliest potential hour slot that we have every time for us?
I'm gonna be honest. XSET got a little too secure to themselves there in that situation. I think once the Kino got the free 2K over by the stairs, it seems like the team got a little bit too like lackadaisical about their positioning, and that kind of left the floodgates open for Parabellum to pick up a few kills to bring it back, and things kind of snowballed from there.
Yeah, you know what the Siege community calls that? What? The Levron effect. Sometimes you just shouldn't type in chat.
You know,
guys.
that's true. I completely forgot about that mid call in the all chat in the middle around there.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. You know what's the funniest thing about the whole Levron effect situation as well is that like Levron has always been that kind of person as well. Is like anything happens at all, he immediately types, and then like the worst things happen to this guy. I'm telling you, this has been like a year after year after year. One of the funniest things. But yeah, definitely a big Levron effect there onto XSET. But you know, at the end of the day, it is what it is. Parabellum just went it out in a very scrappy round. It is what it is yet again. I think the big weird thing that happened there was obviously just what was the situation with Blaz outside. Like we're 45 seconds into the round, you're reloading your entire LMG. Like what have you shot at, my man? What are you doing over here? It's just very, very funny. But either way though, bigger shots coming out of XSET here over towards Shower. Yaga's going to fall back, though, as it is a basement defense, and Warden very impactful when it comes to a basement defense, with Twitch along for the ride as well, and those smokes could have the potential to actually end up utilizing those glasses quite handedly. So we'll have to see how that one will end up working out. Yaga does have some form of assistance. Ooh, I do believe that player is outside, so don't sweat it just yet, folks, but Yaga, obviously, with somewhat of a potential, get a kill there. Parabellum, though, they want to take their time and make sure that none of these XSET members are potentially laying under a windowsill or playing around meeting or anything of the sort.
Yaga almost on the correct timing there for that push coming down through Yellow Hall, but has to fall back just a tad now after missing the opportunity. It's also going to be a little bit of a safety drone working its way through here for Parabellum just to make sure there's not going to potentially be a repeat from Yaga or someone else. The birds do not spot him. The Twitch drone does, and it'll shoot out a tiny little sliver of damage. Not anything that Yaga really needs to worry about, however, as he just falls back a bit deeper into Freezer.
Yes, indeed. To this day, Warden's running animation still throws me off just a little bit. Either way, Gunner will start coming down main stairs. Not too much back and forth between these two teams. Pretty steadfast round when it comes down to it. Gunner's got a pretty strong position and a dead DS Lucas as he crept down Laundry unnoticed by the defense, able to get a big kill. Now with that, looks like they'll be able to at least work into these hatches and start clearing some of these utility pieces around the site. They'll have two shields lying around, more than likely one inside a Freezer hallway that they want to get rid of. And of course, as we all know, the Pillar's position, a pretty hot commodity when it comes down to it, especially for the offense. If they're able to dislodge Spirits, they practically have a foothold on this basement setup and can start trying to force a plant into stock.
See if they can get the job done as XSET ready for the challenge here. We can see Spirits as well as Gomez, or at least there was a position from Gomez there playing up towards Pillar. He's going to get naded out by Penguin. No push made yet, but that's not a problem for Yaga. An easy snapshot adjustment from him, and he still is able to knock out Gunner. Two players down, however, from this roster. Now they bring back a second one against Parabellum as well, with Spirits' most recent pick against Eska. Blasto sneaking right in from Freezer. Finally makes his own insertion to take down Yaga. Give the advantage back to our attackers. Spirits, though, takes it right away as he denies the backstairs pressure trying to work itself into the site. Toxic Babe is through, but a smoke is out as well, allowing Kool-Aid deeper access to this site. Second player moving in also here. The shotgun pellets are out, but they're not going to make an effective play. They don't kill either one of them, but they bring them down very low, setting up this potential clutch from Spirits as he knocks down one. Kool-Aid, however, takes the initiative. He gets aggressive and swings the Freezer position instead to win out the round for PB.
I'm not even joking. I'm pretty sure Kool-Aid stood up, said, what? And then he was like, I don't really know what I have to say. And then he just sat back down. Like, that was truly incredible, though. Down to the wire in between these two. XSET, they can't make a stand on the basement setup. It seems like Yaga's going to be their saving grace at first, but they kind of misstep in a certain way, and they allow a singular man, John, with a very big gun, one that happens to shoot quite quickly. Blaz with an F2 creeps into Freezer and decimates the entirety of the XSET setup. Past that, some very big missed shots when it came to that M590 swinging through the Laundry rotate and couldn't claim either one of the Parabellum members. That was the make or break there for that clutch situation, and XSET broke, fortunately enough. But good news at least, XSET can head back downstairs for one more attempt before Parabellum head to map and match point if they're able to secure round 11.
See how this will work out. We're going to see pretty much the same operator lineup come into the fold this time for Parabellum. Things worked out last round, so no real reason to change it up for them, although, of course, it was very, very close. XSET probably angry about the way that round played out, considering they had the M590 lined up and nearly a winning shot to come out from it, but does not end up happening. So they will, of course, retry this site, believing that they can easily win it out on the rerun. We'll see if that holds itself to be true, though. As Stokes mentioned, Parabellum is now just those 2 rounds away from closing out the game. However, we've only got 2 rounds left in regulation here, so it needs to be flawless. What a steal from Gomez, though. Walks up to the open window, catches a roaming gunner. That's going to actually trade back the exchange for a few rounds and go, where Parabellum was able to steal away the Finka in the early round. This time, it's going to be XSET that do it to PB.
I believe we have a kitchen player as well here. Blaz has to be very, very concerned with the potential of a flank coming out. Gomez continuing to work his angles, and
the worst part is they
Z-ping here. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure the worst part is they haven't droned him.
They probably think the Freezer player is the player that was shooting at them from before here. Exchanges are going to be going down on the site, though, as PB is trying to brute force this execute, unaware of the Gomez flank, walking right down to shut it all out. There goes the Freezer position, and just like that, PB are already down to 2 players, Kool-Aid and Eska, who weren't even really in position to execute behind that Freezer player either. So I'm curious as to what the game plan was there, as it was very detached, even if that third member in Freezer didn't go down.
Yeah, it's almost as if Kool-Aid was a little closer to where Freezer were. He more than likely could have killed Gomez. You know, it's just situations like that. I'm not trying to be hard on these players at all. It's just situations like that that really, really get you into trouble when you get disjointed like that and somebody's able to slip through something as small as about a 5-second window. Now for XSET, they can just simply sit on the rest of this round. There's really nothing left for them to really do. Parabellum, they are the playmakers in the current moment. XSET just needs to enter more of a discovering mode and find out where these 2 players want to try and get in from, and it should be fairly straightforward from that moment in time. Just stack as 2 on either respective side and play for your trades. Eska going to start working his way towards construction. He's awaiting the call from Kool-Aid so that they can act at the same exact time. Eska's going to back off and pre-fire the construction single panel instead, as they're assuming that he's coming in from that way, but Kino, the 6th sense, it works out for him. He'll take down Kool-Aid. It's all up to Eska outside. He'll be able to get one. Can't get the second one, though. Does still have some time, so I will tell you this. XSET, please do not overswing, because Eska, even though he's 2-8 at the current moment, still a professional player. He can get things done if you give up too much of this rope.
Pretty sure he's just going to use the remaining time as an existence pause, though, so we'll see him back away from this one. Just kind of a free 30 to 40 seconds, I think it was here, to allow their IGL to give the input that necessarily can be given at this point in the game as to how they need to approach the next round here. Basically just dead time, as Eska now going to sit here and basically try to waste that as much as possible, try to pad his stats in the process, although it does bring it down to the 1v2, so it's starting to get a little scary, but yeah, gets caught trying to pick up the case. We resume the realm of normality, and XSET wins the round.
Yes, indeed. XSET will claim it after 2 big picks, all from DS Lucas. Quite the nice roam, especially with that initial kill. I mean, not one that you particularly see very often, kill all the way out in the yard through kitchen window, but it is what it is. Not only that, they take down Gunner, of all players, in that situation with the Finka. So very, very detrimental, obviously, to Parabellum's overall attack. And, I mean, it got made much, much worse later on when we ended up seeing that flank coming through Gomez as well onto the Twitch inside of Freezer. Now for XSET, 1 round away from being able to claim this inside of regulation, or is it going to require overtime for our very first match of the day? Parabellum is going to be making some switches here when it comes to this offensive side, and actually, funny enough, 2 big things that we haven't seen this game and that we really didn't even talk about when it came to the ban phase. We have just now seen Thatcher for the very first time, and we haven't seen Kaid. No one has played Kaid to a lock up hatches or anything of the sort. I mean, we haven't seen Maverick brought, obviously, to get some of these hatches open, but, I mean, it's fairly straightforward when you have the Habana and things aren't electrified. I mean, Mav's just more of a flex pick at that point with a nice gun and some frag grenades. So it's just kind of a weird situation coming back and forth in between these 2. Never seen those really utilized, but in fact, we will have that Thatcher like we were talking about before inside of at least this round.
A little bit unfortunate for Gomez. I think he takes a half of a shotgun chunk or 2 while Kino was trying to set things up. Probably wishing he picked that Thunderbird now, considering that he's lost about a third of his HP, but we'll have to see how the laser gates fare out for the XSET roster here, as PB has also brought a little wrinkle into their attacking strategy. So we're going to see the Amaru hop in, potentially come out from Gunnar at some point during this round. So obviously he's brought the utility to do so. Considering he is also secondary hard breach, though, may want to hold that off for a few moments until the team has appropriate positioning, either towards walk-in or somewhere else on the map, to actually go for that play. In fact, no, never mind. Gunnar is going to be in charge of opening up the attic, so he'll use both the can openers to do that, and then probably hop out of the tower window.
Parabellum won't be able to take big tower control. Eska working his way in through Armory towards the top of the stairwell. Be able to get rid of the default cam. Yaga's got the cross here, so he'll advise if he goes for the swing. They should know it's open, as it's been open practically every single time that XSET plays this. Free Fire's coming out. Eska utilizing his shoulder quite well there. You can see those bullets practically traveling right past his ear. So quite a scary affair there just for a split second, as Yaga moments away from being able to take first blood yet again inside of this matchup. Blaz will be able to, at a minimum, get rid of the positioning around the Master Closet. Be very nice for him. Metroso here from Yaga could kill, but more than likely doesn't have any info to influence this situation, as he's starting to get collapsed upon, especially from this attic position of Gunnar. But he's aware of it. He knows that there's two openings in, and he's going to get double stunned here. No picks just yet, but this timer continually dwindles.
Gunnar gonna be able to make the first entry going here as Parabellum's executor's working out flawlessly right now. Penguin scoring a second kill. Blaz trying to work his way up through white stairs, and now gonna catch the rotate from Yaga as well. XSET just cannot maintain in their defensive setup, but it's gonna be a flawless round from Parabellum to push them over the edge and into overtime.
Very, very well done from Parabellum, as there's so many different angles being utilized on that attack. And this is something that we did not see out of XSET, John. I'd like to call back to what we saw with their Dorms offense. Very one-dimensional, white stairs, big window, nothing else. What's the difference that we saw there with Parabellum's attack, though? We have trophy, we have attic, we have white stairs, we have big window. We have literally everything. If you want to try and challenge an angle, there's somebody occupying that, and they really, really want to kill you. So, like, for XSET, in a situation like that, especially when the first pick doesn't go your way, Parabellum can continue to bowl you over. Every single time you try and take that challenge and come back into the round, Parabellum are just getting that much more of a lead because you're giving more bodies over. XSET just not really having the denial in the way that they needed to on a setup like that from Parabellum, and it just left them in a pretty bad situation. And fortunately enough for them, they are going to have the majority of the defenses when it comes to overtime, so they'll have some chances to right their wrongs. And it's going to all start in the basement here, with Parabellum applying their own pretty unique setup, at least initially, before switching off to what we've been seeing a majority of the time.
Kool-Aid's a liar in the meanwhile. Said he was bringing the glass out in the
They're
chat.
always liars,
Hot
John.
swapped it over to the Habana. How dare he speak a mistruth to his opponents. XSET, doubt they're going to fall for that, so not going to be too big of an issue for them there. And on top of that, too, we did have a Ying initially selected here for Penguin. He has since swapped that as well over towards the Maverick. So again, we've got a pretty straightforward attacker lineup here to be able to approach the basement. What we don't have is a pretty straightforward opener. Yaga standing right out in the opening of the yellow hallway, takes down the first member of Parabellum. The troubles for our attackers don't stop there either, as another member of the squad also falls, I believe, trying to push towards Kitchen, and Gomez catching the lurk from Gunnar to finally get this trade going. It does not pan out. Gomez gets the LMAO in the chat. Spirit shuts out Penguin trying to approach the basement relatively quickly as well, and that's now left Kool-Aid very, very lonely on his own here on the first floor.
Yeah, that's a really cool flawless round you had there. Do you mind? Can I borrow that for a second?
If we just steal one of those?
I'll have one of those too. Costco, right? Got good prices? That's what I heard. Well, Kool-Aid, I would love to commentate this, but I really don't know what's going to happen for you here.
More than likely, he's going to peek and die, if I had to take a wild guess.
Oh, that's a bold strategy, Cotton. I'll have to see if it works out for him.
I took a really safe bet there.
Yeah, well, he does have stuns. He's got that going for him.
He really wants to wait for this peak.
He's like, dude, my favorite thing, look at Gunnar in the camera right now. Gunnar just has his hands under the desk, and he's like, I don't think this is going anywhere. unfortunate circumstances there for Parabellum, as it's the pick show, or, I mean, you could really say the gun show for XSET inside of the opener there. They take the first round of overtime and are trying to make this pretty lickety-split at the end of the day.
Yeah, they win it quickly, too, as that round is pretty much decided within the first 30 seconds to a minute of play. Parabellum not giving themselves even a chance to bring it back, unfortunately, as they double, if not triple down on the initial 2 losses, trying to make up the difference, and it just does not pay out. They're also going to go for a basement defense here, as obviously we're in overtime, so the sides are going to switch every round now. XSET does have the inherent advantage, quote-unquote, of having the 2 defensive-sided rounds here. So they're going back to it after this round, if they even need it, however, as they can, of course, close it down here at 8-6 by winning this attack.
They can indeed, and not only that, but they've brought quite a few frag grenades and the Lion yet again in order to assist with this. There's not going to be any mutes on the defense, so they won't be able to utilize those around some of the positioning for some of these anchors. But, you know, as we've talked about previously on the desk, not exactly the best way to use mute. It's just one of the ways that you definitely can if you have an overabundance of denial. Otherwise, you're going to usually see mute jammers around areas to try and deny drones or potentially a wall. That's kind of like the last thing you're going to see mute brought for. No one's just going to bring him as a direct counter to line and be like, all right, it's the only reason that we're bringing mute. But past that, though, Parabellum are out and ready here for XSET's arrival onto the building. Everything already battened down and prepared for war, as Penguin will re-enter the mid-floor, but he'll quickly skimper off back into the basement. The most forward player at the moment would have been Gunner if he maintained his position at the top of the stairwell, but he'll fall off as well, end up barricading that up. You can see that XSET trying to dot their I's and cross their T's, as they'll even clear out small tower, John. One that we see overlooked quite often when it comes to clears, but they're making sure there's not a single crook nor cranny that Parabellum can fit themselves into.
So PB not going to even be going for that realistically on this round. You can see that they've pretty much resumed just a normal bunker setup for the most part. Maybe a little bit of pressure on backstairs, but that is about it. So XSET will have a lot of freedom to play out here. However, they're not going to take a chance on potentially allowing a member of Parabellum to sneak into one of those nooks and crannies that Stokes was mentioning there. So definitely make sure they check through everything, and with the relatively reserved PB style of play, it shouldn't take too long to check through all of that, as they pretty much have completed that task already. Just need to check out the rest of the top tower, and then they'll probably be good to start descending, or at least opening up the pathways to descend into the basement.
Replicator online.
XSET continually doing the hard man's work, opening up these hatches, the boring part of playing Oregon, and soon enough we'll be on the shores of Parabellum as they await them in the basement. Spirits will work his way down big tower stairs. He'll be able to get rid of some barbed wire with his Gun 6, and has a frag grenade in his pocket that he'll cook up quite nicely, about a medium rare, but it doesn't matter. The ADS will catch that up, and the secondary nade should destroy said ADS, and it will. Drone will confirm Eska's position, but that's a dead Kino in the process as a nitro cell goes wide. Gomez with a frag grenade. He's going to try and pour that deep into elbow. It's not going to really do too much to the positioning of these members just yet. Can he get rid of the deployable shield? He can, so he'll try and propel himself forward. Almost has a frag, almost has quite a few frags actually, but Gomez, he simply tags a few members up. That's about it. Spirits will try and work his way down now as well, as XSET, they've gotten the position around pillars, but they haven't been able to find themselves a kill.
Yeah, PB have so many harsh cutoffs here that the second XSET try to swing too far to the left or right, they're going to have to take a duel versus them. We can see this now from Blaz's POV. Penguin has been lost, I believe, closer towards either Freezer or Constructions. That'll open up a partial pathway for the members of XSET to work their way in there. Away from that, though, they still need to find a safer path forward, because here's the problem. They don't have the easy way to clear out the second player inside of Freezer. Another member is going to go down here. This time it's going to be Defender, though. Kool-Aid falls to Gomez. 19 seconds are left for the attackers to pierce the veil here, and they've got it on an even 3v3, but not any longer with Gunnar having gone down. Eska trades it right back, though. Brings out Gomez from the fight, and then after swinging around, gets a second one against Yaga. Diaz is the only one remaining here against the 1v2. Well, we were going to cut out a little bit early there. It still ends up going into PB's favor as they tie us up there at 7-7.
I mean, they were so confident in it that Gunnar was already speaking. He was already talking to the other bench. He's like, it's wraps. You can't get this anymore. I mean, it was quite close as well, but it really wouldn't matter at the end of the day, obviously, as if you do grab that case, you can at least potentially place it down, going down to that 0-0 marker. So, XSET not able to make the most grand of stands when it comes to their offense, as Parabellum play so very close to the chest, and it works out for them. I mean, it was quite scrappy at the end of the day. A lot of very close quarters moves, especially with some of their teammates that could have ended up body blocking them into some angles or things along those lines. A lot to worry about. But you can just see how far along Parabellum has come inside of the last month and a half since we saw them in Stage 1. This newfound roster for B, at least with the 2 new pickups, they're looking so very solid up against these kind of teams, especially teams like XSET, where, you know, it's sometimes just pure unadulterated aggression, and they are just trying to fight you in every sense of the term. Parabellum can do that. They can do strategy. They can do a nice little fusion of both. You know, they got a lot of different flavors, you know. It's really nice. It's almost like an ice cream shop during the week, right? You just got 7 different daily flavors that you can go for. And that's really the way they look, you can look at Parabellum, is that they can play a lot of different strategies, and it works quite well for them. We'll see if it can continue to work, though, as XSET are down for the very last time on defense, the top floor defense. They'll be holding things inside of this mid floor, at least for security's sake here, for quite some time.
Do or die time for Parabellum on the assaulting side of this map as well, so a lot of work cut out for them. And even beyond that, XSET with the upstairs hold, still a confident site to play into. Let's see how Parabellum will at least try to go for their initial clear. Fairly tepid amount of drone intel kind of trickling in for them at the moment, but not anything actionable at this point in the round. Interesting extension there for XSET 2 to go over towards Arsenal. This is an area of the map where we've seen Parabellum try to take their initial control towards, although it's not going to be happening on this round. Much bigger priorities. We see a deep EMP thrown out there from Penguin. Much bigger priority clearing out the master bedroom area, and it should work out quite well for them. Gunnar as well already does have an opening into attic, so he's going to be a little cautious of that, playing up top here with the Amaro just to make sure no one tries to go for a rotate in that area.
Slow and steady for both of these teams. No one wanted to be the first one to make a mistake. XSET playing this pretty close to the actual site at the current moment, allowing Parabellum to start taking control of Trophy as well as Master. Kool-Aid being able to confirm that really nothing happening around games either, so Penguin will EMP to try and free up this single panel. We'll see if they try and breach this, but as of right now, they just have to worry about these deep set XSET numbers as well as Yaga inside of attic. Yag being the big piece of the puzzle here that if they potentially stop, we just went out the round outright with a games plan. We'll take down Gomez, going to be a big piece of the puzzle here, and Kino will go down as well. Yaga, your number's been called up, my friend. It's time to do the dirty work. Otherwise, XSET will lose to Parabellum. Penguin, he's going to end up getting lit up, but it's actually Spirits with a nice move, and he'll drop off from sight. Yaga won't be able to win out his gunfights. Eska, I believe he's taking down Spirits as well. It's all down to Diaz with just the EBR. He'll be able to get one, but it's going to be a push from behind, and Parabellum takes the game. Jesse J. Chick, eat your heart out as the Canadians take it.
Just rude to Jesse there to go right
he
towards
deserves
that.
it.
But what a massive victory here for Parabellum today. You could see, you could feel it to an extent here. The palpable on stage over in Vegas is certainly something to be respected here now as Parabellum get a massive dub today versus XSET, taking it all the way to the bitter end of overtime here. 8-7 is the way the score ends up developing into their favor. That doesn't mean they're going to get 2 points for this game. XSET is not going to go home empty-handed either. They'll still get a point here in the division standings as a result of them making it to overtime at least.
Well, if there's something that I've learned in life, John, it's 2 things. Number 1, you never fight a man with a perm. Number 2, never fight a man that's wearing flowers. And that's exactly what we just saw. Parabellum, the jerseys, that's really where all this power is coming from, right? It has to be. I mean, no, this squad, especially with Blazin and Gunnar, I mean, the way that they can enact themselves upon the map and take some of these really hotly contested gunfights and do it in such a convincing way, it's made it to where this team can really play with some pretty hot strategy, like we'd been talking about previously. I'm very, very happy with what we've been seeing with Parabellum, and I guarantee you that they are happy with how this stage is going. But folks, that's going to do it for our very first game. Do not touch your browser. We'll be back very, very soon with the Analyst Desk and breaking things down with this game and an interview. We'll see you soon.
All right, that is how we like to start the week at NAL. A super close match, a little bit of an upset, not that much of one, but 8-7 victory for Parabellum. Pretty sick. I mean, not for our analysts who both predicted XSET, but, you know, pretty sick map to watch.
Sam gets to be right. His prediction streak is actually insane right now. I'm a little jealous of how well he's doing so far.
I appreciate anytime this man gets put on blast for any reason, so keep doing that.
You predicted the same team as me.
That's true, but
you were
also
on blast for the same reason.
Yeah, but you got called out and I didn't.
It is a North American league, but we got, you know, Canada and NA, of course, like Canada and America, right? So, you know, apparently
he will forever be
a close game.
I think
it's a close game.
You know what? Jesse Chick's an analyst. He is Canadian, but he is an analyst first and foremost, right? When it comes to the desk. You got to predict him how you see him, right?
Do we truly set our nationalities aside for this? Is that how it works?
Of course.
I've never been biased ever.
How do you think Hap feels on the EUL desk being the only non-Brit there that's not Milos? Poor Hap.
We'll have to ask him. Either way, as we wait for the interview to get set up, let's break down that match just a little bit here. So, what was it that really kind of put Parabellum over the top? I mean, there were a couple missteps here and there. They had some tricky executions that they didn't quite pull off. But in the end, I mean, was it just gunplay? Was it just XSET missteps a little bit? What do you think it was?
I mean, I thought that overtime was not great from XSET. Obviously, they won the round 13, but then 14 and 15, I don't know. It felt like things were getting a little bit sloppy for them. We started with the laundry attack, and it looked very similar to round number 1. Parabellum were very clumped up inside the site, and back in round 1, all the way at the start of the game, we saw XSET really punish that. They were getting a lot of swings. They were punishing the angles and the ground that they were able to take for free. But unfortunately, this time it just didn't seem to work out for them. And then round 15 as well. I didn't love some of those swings on the site.
Well, we'll get more into that a little bit later. But now we have Gunnar standing by in Vegas to chat with us after that series. Gunnar, over there, congratulations, first of all, on the win, but also congrats on jumping all the way up to NAL from T3. Here you are, and you're making a big impact already. What's the biggest adjustment you've had to make coming into the NAL as a player?
I mean, I guess just like the environment. I haven't played like players like this good ever. I mean, there's been here and there, but for the most part, I'm just beating up on little kids in T3, and then I get out here and I get smoked. I'm like, oh my gosh. But I think land is just once I fully got it, it's just so smooth and just it just makes the game so much more fun, and just trash talking everyone after it went around.
Yes, sir.
I just got here and I'm already beating all these teams.
Doesn't get any better.
So I mean, Gunnar, you came right from T3, right? You didn't have to play in any Challenger League games. So how was it that Parabellum discovered you? How did you link up with this team, and who was it on that squad that gave you a chance, brought you up, and what was the process like jumping onto PB?
It's funny. I was just in the middle of a ranked game, and my old team, because me and Kool-Aid, we won CCS together in T3. He was my teammate for a long time. We've always been really good friends, and I didn't know they were making any moves or anything. He just DMs me. He's like, yo, you available this weekend? I'm like, yeah. Why? He goes, don't worry about it. Okay. And then 5 minutes later, the coach DMs me and asked me to get in the call, and that's when they asked me to try out. But it just happened literally out of nowhere.
Wow.
I wasn't expecting it. Yeah, that's how it came up.
So obviously, your reputation from T3 obviously precedes you. But do you like the way that you're being utilized on this team? It's been a lot of line, it's seemingly a lot some flank watch positions, so to speak. But that first game where you were playing Nook, the crazy play at the very beginning, and then a lot more finger play as today has progressed. How do you think you're fitting in with this team, and do you like it so far?
I think this is because for a while, I mean, I always used to play Sledge and everything T3, so I've always been even when I played Sledge, I was more of an entry, but the way I'm utilized on this team, it's just go kill. So if I'm online, it's not I'm sitting there on a cam holding people. I'm online for a purpose. If that's to hold someone, fall back and then push in, or if that's to hit the button and go crazy inside. That's our line. But yeah, I mean, I love it. Blaz goes in, shoots people, I walk in behind him and pick up the scraps. So it's really fun.
Nice. Well, hey, it's certainly working out pretty well so far. But thanks for taking the time to sit down and chat with us, and good luck in your game tomorrow.
Thank you. You guys have a good one.
He's killing it, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's literally killing it.
It's great to see players like that just coming up out of T3, not even just skipping Challenger altogether and then making such a huge impact right away. And it seems like a big part of that is just the synergy he has with the players. Like he said, a lot of experience with Kool-Aid in the past, and they just gave him a call and they're like, hey, you want to play in NAL? And he's like, sure. It's working out so well. And the thing is, it was a close one, but a win is a win is a win. Parabellum taking down XSET 8-7.
It's a great judgment call from Parabellum to pick him up, and you can see that 6 opening kills from Gunnar.
Yeah.
That's almost half the rounds that we had so far, because it was a 15-round series, right? So that was a huge benefit to Parabellum. A lot of those coming on the attack. I know he said in that interview that he's following up Blaz sometimes.
Doesn't look like it.
In this game, he was out front quite often, and I think he did a fantastic job there, of course, in the scoreboard. Blaz following him up as well. 14 kills just behind 15. They both had great days.
They're a damn good tandem. The two of them working together like this is something like it's special, but it's again surprising that we've seen this level of maturity kind of happen this quickly between the two of them. Gunnar now one of the only players that now, I think, is the first player to eclipse 40 kills, and he did it over 3 games.
Wow.
If he's on pace for something like this, where he's able to collect 14 to 15 kills a game, Homie's going to be looking to break some kind of record like once we get closer to the very end of it, because we're now a third of the way through his stage. He's already got 40. What I think Vertical had somewhere in like the realm of like 107 or something last
Something
stage.
like that, yeah.
Yeah,
You could
Gunnar
beat it.
at this pace, Gunnar could get like 120.
Yeah, he's on pace to beat it. We're going to take a look at some replays here from some of the individual rounds. Round 4 was one that went XSET's way. And we got to touch on XSET, of course, because it was a close series. They still did have a lot of great moments.
It still feels like there are times where Parabellum's top defenses don't work out nearly as well as they should. Kino up here, that kill, more specifically on Penguin, was the crazy one. But Gunnar was actually the one up here who tries to defend this vertical position first, and he gets killed rather fast. He gets one trade back, doesn't really do much with it. But now it's a matter of how XSET can utilize this kind of vertical positioning against Parabellum. All it takes is like 1 or 2 decent drop downs at this point to really to force him out of position. But Kino goes nuts. He goes upstairs, grabs those 2 attic frags as soon as the control's already been established, and Blaz isn't able to stave this off. I thought this was winnable from the back, because while we were watching it, it looked like you might be able to rotate and get both players here, but XSET do a really good job dominating top floor control, understanding the exact moment to push, and Parabellum in that moment feel like if they defend top floor for even another 20 seconds, XSET wouldn't have been able to get that push off.
Wanted to get up right and go for that flank, but Kino shutting it down so well. That was huge from him.
Meanwhile, a little bit later, Parabellum had to really dig deep to kind of stay in it, right? And round 10 was one of those moments. They really needed to kind of take everything they've been practicing, everything they've been building on over the last stage, and then with the 2 new members, and put it into motion here. Otherwise, it was not going to go their way.
Something to be said about teams that just win rounds they shouldn't, and this was such a great one from Parabellum, the way that they're able to clutch this one out. Blaz and Kool-Aid, 2 big personalities, big names on this team in the 2v2. Spirits and Kino have a lot of advantages here. They've got the positioning, they're on defense, they've got still some smokes that they've got to go through, right? Blaz in this box there, and Kino's in such a good position. The planter's right there, but he can't do it. They shut him down. Spirits will be able to take 1 kill here, but now he's in a 1v1. Spirits, with the time advantage, has everything, but with the pings, Kool-Aid is able to move around and get that kill. So beautifully played, the positioning from Kool-Aid, knowing when to get off the plant, when to go for that swing. That was a great 2v2.
Yeah. One of the things that we were talking about a little bit when we were watching this was the fact that, again, Bodega on XSET been suspended for 12 months. He's not behind the team, supporting them like he normally would be on stage there. How much of an issue do you think that was today? Because I don't believe we saw a timeout from XSET, if I recall correctly. Yeah. And when it gets into those clutch moments, that's where you really want the coach behind you.
I'd say Bodega used those XSET timeouts not when he noticed his team was behind to get them to regroup. He did it when there was a trend that he noticed that he found XSET could exploit really fast. And that feels like the kind of team that XSET were that's exactly what they did. When they called the timeout, sometimes it was even after 2 rounds, Bodega will notice a trend and say, time to just go at this.
That's a good point.
What we saw in this round or in this game was 2 3-3 halves. So there might have been an opportunity if somebody had noticed something to really attack a very specific point. But instead, we get to a point where I'm like, are they going to use this timeout at all? I'm like, maybe they'll use it round 14 if for some reason we need that last round, but they still don't use it, and then their last defense just kind of flounders.
Yeah, I mean, I would have loved to see a tax timeout right after round 14, because it felt like in round 14 they kind of had these problems where they weren't looking the right angles when they were pushing in, they weren't able to find those picks, and then round 15 it just got kind of sloppy, right? I mean, it was the final round, and they had stalls, they had Toxic Babes out to stop the attackers, but they were still going for some wild swings that I wasn't a fan of. And then you take a look at the other side of things, right? And Parabellum actually, I think, used their tax timeout beautifully. It was, of course, right after round number 8. Smitty was able to call that for the squad, and I think that after that point, they started getting a little bit more agile with their attacks. They would switch up where players were going to be pushing from. They'd start one angle, they'd go to the other. It wasn't always working, think Laundry was still a tough nut for them to crack, but I feel like on a lot of those other bomb sites, they were still doing a really good job of adapting their attacks, keeping the defenders off guard, and really pushing in places that allowed them to get a lot of those kind of 2v1s, 3v1 gunfights that eventually won them out with the half.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, overall, I would say XSET's still looking like a stronger team than they did in stage 1. You know, that major performance, definitely putting some things into play with that, but Parabellum coming up fast. It is fun to watch. Great first map. Do not go anywhere, though, because we have 4 more maps remaining here at the day of NAL that we've got coming up. It's going to be Space Station Gaming taking on Beast Coast next, and that'll be coming at you in just a few.